All right, breaking news just came down from Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union Tribune. Jurickson Profar and Eguy Rosario, they're going to be called up and will be on the active roster tomorrow for the Padres three-game series against the Houston Astros. I believe it's going to be a nine-game road trip, three-city road trip, Houston, LA, Oakland. And Jurickson Profar, he was signed to a minor league deal recently. He played some games in El Paso. And I didn't really understand why Jurickson Profar was playing games in El Paso because it's Jurickson Profar. It's in September. The season's over. What is the point in him getting at bats in El Paso? It's one less guy that you can have on your bench that can play the infield. And look what happens yesterday. Fernando has to go play second base because they don't have anyone on the bench. So I think Profar should just been on the major league roster to begin with. But it's interesting that Eguy Rosario is also being called up. So the question there that I had, and I posted this as a poll on social media just a few moments ago, Jurickson Profar, Eguy Rosario, now they're being up. Does that mean the Padres shut down Manny Machado? We know he's been DHing pretty much every day. We know he's dealing with that tennis elbow, and it's obviously hurting him enough where he's not playing third base. The Padres season's over. They're not making the playoffs. What's the point in him continuing to play? Okay, maybe wait till they're mathematically eliminated to shut Manny down. But this move here, now count how many infielders are on the active roster for the Padres. Matthew Batten, Xander Bogaerts, Garrett Cooper, Ha-Sung Kim, Manny Machado. And assuming that none of those guys are off of it, then Eguy Rosario, Jurickson Profar. You could say Profar is an outfielder. He was playing some outfield with El Paso, but he can play the infield as well. So that's seven guys there. You could count Tatis that could play the infield, but Profar can play as well. He was signed, it said third base on the transactions log. So we'll see what happens there. But that's maybe seven guys there. Do the Padres, are they going to run with seven guys like that? And Eguy Rosario, he could go play third base. He's played third base in the minor leagues, right? He could play third base if they shut down Manny. Profar can probably play some third base. They could have Kim play third base. They could have Profar play first base. And you have Kim obviously at third, or Batten you could have at third. You have Kim at second, whatever. Like there's a way that you can do this, especially when you bring up a couple of guys that can play the infield. Or what might happen is they continue to have Profar play the outfield. They try Tatis in center field here in the last month of the year, have Profar go play right field, have Soto continue to play left. Maybe that's what they do. And I was thinking, like, okay, with these moves, it makes sense. This is the time to shut Manny down here. I know they're not mathematically eliminated, but again, the season's over. But then I was looking at the roster and you're looking at the transactions and the Padres, they just DFA'd Ben Gamel earlier today and he was on the roster yesterday. So that's one guy already that you have to replace, right? So one of those guys is going to replace Ben Gamel. Let's say it's Jurickson Profar because he can play the outfield. Gary Sanchez, he just fractured his wrist, right? He's done. So that's another guy you have to replace. And they're not going to bring Austin Nola in because obviously he's still dealing with his mental issues, obviously. And hopefully everything can get well there on that front with him. But it's Sullivan and Campy. Those are the catchers for the rest of the season, as long as those guys can stay healthy. So the second guy that would just go replace Gary, already replaced Gamel, Eguy Rosario would probably be a guy that would go replace Gary. Now, not obviously actually like as a catcher, but just on the roster, 13 position players, 13 pitchers. I believe there's 11 right now, with if you don't include Gary, and then Gamel, obviously. And so those two guys probably would just replace those guys on the roster. You wouldn't have to send any pitchers down, and you wouldn't have to send anyone else down. That's a position player because Gary's just going to go on the IL, and they already DFA'd Ben Gamel, right? So maybe Manny doesn't get shut down. I would probably lean towards Manny not getting shut down tomorrow, and that being an announcement. I would think that they wait until they're mathematically eliminated to shut him down, but I think Manny knows as well the season's over. He could say to the media if he wants to, just one game at a time. There's no X next to our name. Just got to keep playing baseball. He loves to say that, but we all know the season's over. But Jurickson Profar, Eguy Rosario, no disrespect to him, but more Padres fans know Jurickson Profar. And I'm not saying Jurickson Profar is like on the level of Fernando, like must watch player, but it's a fun guy to it's a fun guy to watch in September when your team's out of it, right? I think that'll be more entertaining. Get to see Profar back in a Padres uniform, back with that dugout, because it seems like he's a pretty good teammate, good clubhouse guy, good chemistry. So why not? And it's a guy that can play multiple positions. He can give guys days off here who have been playing pretty much every day. He can give Fernando a day off if they want to have Soto play right, or Profar could probably play right field as well. You could again, they could try to have Tatisco play center field and have Profar play one of the corners. You could give Manny days off, obviously, and not even have him DH. You could have Garrett Cooper not play if you want Profar to play first. Like there's ways that they can go about this, and then same thing with Eguy Rosario. Like if someone gets shut down, Eguy Rosario can play second base or he can play third base. He can be off the bench, come in late in a game. So we'll see how the Padres go about this. But yeah, that's the latest news today. On and off day, Profar coming up, Eguy Rosario coming up. Um, doesn't have a bunch of big league experience, obviously, but for anyone that's curious, how is he doing at the minor league level so far this season? In AAA, like I'll just hit on his AAA numbers for this year. He is hitting 265, 348 on base percentage, 422 slugging percentage, 5 home runs, not like great, but he does have a little bit of experience. And again, it's September. They can give him a look. If he gets some playing time, kind of like Matthew Batten, just give him a look. And if he does well, then maybe he can fight for one of those last bench spots going into next season. We obviously don't know who's going to be on the bench next year, but you know, this is a chance for Eguy Rosario to make a good impression and a chance for Jurickson Profar to continue to make a good impression as well, because I don't anticipate him being like a really sought after free agent. He wasn't even that sought after last year, and that's probably part of his demands, Scott Boras and the contract demands for Profar, like wanting a multi-year, probably like 3, maybe even 5-year deal like Andrew Benintendi got from the White Sox, but no team was going to give him that, and all the roster spots were just taken up. So he ends up going a 1-year deal with the Colorado Rockies after the WBC and doesn't have that great of a year. Just look at the numbers, hasn't been that great. But hopefully, I mean, sitting here right now, I would be fine with Jurickson Profar being a bench guy for the Padres next year. And so maybe this is what this will turn into. Back with the Padres, finishes strong. He's comfortable here. Give him a 1-year deal. Maybe he's okay with that 1-year deal with the Padres next year to be a key like Chris Taylor type for the Padres. Utility, playing wherever, doing whatever he's asked. Maybe that's what happens. But that's the news. Give your thoughts in the comments. Jurickson Profar and Eguy Rosario coming up tomorrow. I would just expect them to be replacing Gary and Gamble on the roster.